Hi, I'm Priyanka, and I just came back from the mountains. I was in Dharamshala. Beautiful place, pine trees, crisp air, snow-capped mountains. But something makes me really wonder about what is it that makes us go to the mountains. Most people that basically seek the mountains are somewhere disenchanted, somewhere some illusion has collapsed, and you go to seek refuge. Disenchantment is a really profound state. I think that sooner or later in life we all experience. It leaves us in a state of profound pain, and we really try our best to get out of that pain. And that's usually by wandering. And I find wandering is something very beautiful because you're aimlessly traveling somewhere. And it's a really beautiful way to overcome a terrible experience. And disenchantment also has its own geography. You seek monasteries, you seek deserts, you seek oceans and mountains. Not to distract yourself, but to face yourself. And that whole space is not trying to fix your problem, it's just witnessing your problem. So for me, my travel began in Peru about 10 years ago. And from Peru, I traveled to Spain, then I lived for a bit in France, then I moved to the Middle East, then I ended up in Nepal, in Turkey, and now in India. And it's really incredible because I got to absorb so many different cultures, experiences, foods, languages, and also mindsets. It's been a really colorful life so far. And I always wondered, like, okay, it would be so cool for people to see what I'm experiencing, and photos alone can't capture it. So one day I decided to start documenting it, and I got a few cameramen, and off we went to Kathmandu, and we started to travel throughout. Now, I wasn't just traveling, but I was seeking answers to questions. See, my disappointment was existential. And when you're profoundly disappointed with things, you go to the edge of life in a way. You go to the edge and you start to question in a much more dangerous way. You start to question the constructs of society. What are the things that we have been conditioned to believe? And so I started to wonder, how do we stop suffering? How do we break free from attachment? How do I get out of karma? Like, how do I burn off my karma? And so I kept coming back to India, and I went to Varanasi, to Haridwar, to Calcutta, to Rishikesh, then to Dharamshala, of course, and many, many places throughout this beautiful country. And the seeking is rooted in these spiritual questions, because in the end, what really liberates us from all of this, and I was seeking liberation, and that liberation, how do we find it? So I started to seek spiritual masters, asking them what is written in the scriptures. And so, but beyond that, I think that the crux cannot just be found in scriptures, but it can be found in actually reality, in the reality we grow up with as children. And the crux of it is enchantment. Because what happens is, when we're children, we're watching Disney, right? We all did it. We all watched Cinderella, we watched The Lady and the Tramp, or The Lion King. And all of these stories have given us a template on how life should be. We see love as something, we see love as being rescued. We see endurance as love. We see safety as someone coming to save us. So everything depends on the other. And children are very susceptible to this. So what happens is, it doesn't just end in stories, but it's a psychic structure. And that psychic structure forms our subconscious mind and how we absorb reality. And we carry these stories into our adult life. And for example, you have Beauty and the Beast. I call it as the Beauty and the Beast is the perfect example of the Disney complex. Because what happens here is that we're taught that a beast is is the epitome of love. He represents violence, he represents chaos, and he represents total volatility. And it's the endurance of the girl through her love and her sacrifice and patience that he eventually transforms into a prince. And take that template into our adult life, we're still applying it. So many girls end up in abusive relationships where they're just holding out for the guy to change. And that's kind of what we've been taught as children. By watching things like Disney that just hold out, and there will be a reward for anything bad that may happen in your life. Any disenchantment will be met with a future enchantment. And I believe that is precisely the thing that we need to change in our society. We shouldn't hold on to these sort of psychic structures. We need to change them, and we need to rewrite stories that we learn from the age of 5 so that we can change our reality as adults. Now, when we are expecting someone to come and save us, we're basically going into a cycle of repetitive suffering. And in India, in Buddhism, we call that samsara. Samsara is the cycle of death and rebirth. And my Buddhist teacher, Rinpoche in Dharamshala, describes it really beautifully. He says, samsara is when you're sitting in jail with the door wide open and you refuse to leave. So everything is a choice. Reality is a choice. Living in a state of enchantment is a choice. And yeah, thank you very much.